Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balaba Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jashodanandano Braja Janaranjano Jashodanandano Braja Janaranjano Jashodanandano Braja Janaranjano Jashodanandano Braja Janaranjano Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Statarasata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki His co-founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Gaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivedanta Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopakapina Shamkunda Radha Kundigiri Govardhana Ki Shri Vrindavan Dhama Ki Shri Mayapur Dhama Ki Ganga Maya Ki Jamuna Maya Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulasi Devi Ki Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jainatai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. So then carrying on with the principle of always seeing everything in relation to the Lord, and everything is situated in the Lord. Okay. So then, elsewhere in the 10th canto, 10:21-15, it is said, hearing the songs of Lord Mukunda's flute, the rivers then stopped their currents, although the minds of the rivers could still be ascertained from the presence of whirlpools. With the arms of their waves, the rivers seized the 2 lotus feet of Murari, taking help from the lotus plants, and thus he became trapped in their embrace. Right, so that way then Krishna's feet become lotus feet, because then the Jamuna then is capturing his feet with the lotus plants. Right? So therefore then he has lotus feet. Does that make sense? It's poetic. And that is pointing out he has lotus feet, so then if they're catching his feet, and then they're like lotuses are in the water, so like that connection. In the 10th canto, 10:90-15, the queens of Dwarka pray, dear Kurari, that's a bird, now it is very late at night, everyone is sleeping, the whole world is now calm and peaceful. At this time, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is sleeping, although his knowledge is undisturbed by any circumstance. Then why are you not sleeping? Why are you lamenting like this throughout the whole night? Dear friend, is it that you are also attracted by the lotus eyes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and by his sweet smiling and attractive words, exactly as we are? Do those dealings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead pinch your heart as they do ours? So, not just philosophically, means like we'll generally be looking at it that philosophically we see things connected to Krishna. You see something through the philosophy, then you make that connection. But here we see these great devotees, then it's going beyond just making a connection to Krishna as the Lord, but then they're taking it into his pastimes, he himself, him as a personality, how he's dealing and their attraction for him. So then seeing the Kurari bird, because the Kurari bird is known for its kind of mood of having that aspect of lamentation. So then taking that, then they're comparing that to their own lamentation. And then talking to the bird and just seeing it the connection to Krishna. Does that make sense? So then they take whatever's there and take it back to the pastimes of the Lord. Does that make sense? So in the beginning we see is how Krishna through his energies is controlling everything. And then we see how he is controlling his energies and all that. Then we see how as a person then he's acting in relationship to all the great devotees and the wonderful things that are happening there. Right? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is also given Mother Jashoda as an example of an Uttamadhikari. For Mother Jashoda actually saw all living beings within the mouth of Krishna during the Lord's Vrindavan Leela. Right? So in the Vrindavan Leela, then Krishna, then he saw, within the mouth of Krishna, everything. So then she's seeing that, she has that vision. Right? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also points out in his commentary, quote, in this verse the word pashyet, or one must see, does not mean that at every moment one is visualizing the form of Krishna. Rather, it means that one has reached the exalted platform of devotional service on which he is fit to see or capable of seeing Krishna's form. Right? So it's not that he's meditating on it like that. It's that he's come to that platform where he naturally is always absorbed in. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. So here's then pointing out that the real qualification is tad didrik shadhikya, or having an overwhelming desire to see the Lord. So in this way, you're always seeing everything in connection to the Lord with that overwhelming desire to see them. Therefore, the statement of Bhagavad Gita that a devotee should see Krishna everywhere, yomam pashyati sarvatra, can be understood in terms of the example of a lusty man's thinking that the world is full of beautiful women. Similarly, one should become transcendently so desirous of seeing the Lord that one can perceive within the entire universe nothing but Krishna and his potency. Right? Because someone has a particular desire, so he gives the example here of a lusty person, then whatever they look at, they'll see it in connection with that lust. You understand? So in the same way as we see everything in connection with Krishna, because it's for Krishna's pleasure. Does that make sense? The principle is the same. So whether you're absorbed in Krishna directly, whether you're seeing a connection to him, some service to him, in some way remembering some aspect of his name, form, qualities, and pastimes, that's what becomes perfect. Right? In Srila Prabhupada's correspondence in 1969 with Professor J.F. Stahl of the University of California, Srila Prabhupada claimed that all of his disciples who were strictly following the intense program of Krishna consciousness were in fact Sudurlabha Mahatmas who were seeing Vasudeva Sarvam. In other words, if one is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness with an intense desire to please the Lord and one day gain this association, it is understood that in one's life there is nothing but Krishna. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has warned us, however, that a mere theoretical or academic understanding that Krishna is everything does not qualify one as a first-class devotee. It means that's the knowledge. You have that knowledge. And so then you'll progress to that. But just having that knowledge is not being on that platform. Does that make sense? You're situated transcendentally, as we discussed yesterday. But the point is that you've realized, you're tasting the presence of Krishna in everything. That's the difference. So the beginning stage of knowledge is that you hear, then you're able to contemplate, then you're able to realize. Right? Does that make sense? So because in the modern context, generally people don't think of knowledge as the realization. They generally think it is as just having heard the knowledge, having just studied the knowledge. And you remember it, and you can, in that way, repeat it and apply it technically. That is considered knowledge. But in the Vedic, that's the first stage of it, right? The upper stage, or the advanced stage, is then the realization of that. Yeah? One must actually have developed love for Krishna. Therefore, it can be practically understood that anyone who enthusiastically adopts the Krishna consciousness program and eagerly participates in the preaching activities of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is acting on the platform of a Madhyamadikari devotee. When such a devotee becomes overwhelmed by his desire to serve Krishna and associate with Krishna, so much that he is not attracted to anything else within the universe, he should be understood to be an Uttamadikari Vaishnava, as mentioned in this verse. Right? So when they know it, and in this way keep themselves always busy, then that's the Madhyama. And then when all there is that kind of absorption and attraction to Krishna, and there's no attraction to anything else in the universe, that's the Uttama. Does that make sense? We see there's a natural progression. Right? Yeah. Because, as we said, the neophyte, then there's attraction to Krishna, but there's also attraction to the material energy. Does that make sense? So for the Madhyama, basically there's not much attraction to the material energy, but there's not exclusive attraction to Krishna. And we see the Uttama, there's exclusive attraction to Krishna and no interest in anything within the material world. Does that make sense? Yeah. Where's the Atmarama? Well, what kind of Atmarama? Means that if it's someone who their goal is liberation, then that Atmarama will still be in that how you say, lower stage, because they're having knowledge of Brahman, but they're not seeing it in relationship to Krishna, so they're not really worried about Brahman as much as they're worried about being situated there. But if you're talking about the devotees, then they're on this platform. right? The Admarama would be an Uttamadikari, right? But because they're appreciating the position of the Lord. Now, whether they've attained prema or not, that's another thing. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the example is given of great devotees like Narad, Vyas, and Sukadev. Right? Because if it's about always seeing the form, because they're wanting to see the form. So they're showing the pastimes of those who are practicing Krishna consciousness. Right? So we know that they're on that topmost platform. So then they're always wanting to see the Lord. Like we see with the 6 Goswamis, it's always saying that they want to know where is Radha and Krishna. They're always going around trying to see Radha and Krishna. Right? So there's no other interest. The material is not. So we see for Narada, Vyasa, and Sukadev, there's no interest in the material world. Right? So, yeah. Text 46. An intermediate or second-class devotee called Madhyama Adhikari offers his love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is a sincere friend to all the devotees of the Lord, shows mercy to ignorant people who are innocent, and disregards those who are envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. According to Bhagavad Gita, every living entity within the material world is eternally a minute fragmental portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mama gamso jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana. Right? But because of the influence of Maya, the puffed up conditioned souls become inimical to the service of the Lord and the Lord's devotees. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, although a second-class devotee is eager to preach to the innocent conditioned souls, he should avoid the atheistic class of men so that he will not become disturbed or polluted by their association. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has confirmed that a Vaishnava should be indifferent to those who are envious of the Supreme Lord. It is practically seen that when such persons are informed of the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they attempt to ridicule the Supreme Lord, thus further deteriorating their polluted existence. In this connection, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is quoted from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 10:20-36. Sometimes the autumn water falls down from the tops of the hills to supply clean water, and sometimes the water stops. Similarly, sometimes great saintly persons distribute clear knowledge, and sometimes they are silent. Right? So if there's an opportunity for people who are interested in Krishna consciousness to be involved, then they're very enthusiastic. So that's like the water coming down the mountain. But if we find that there are those who are inimical to the Lord in that, then at that time they don't say anything. Because otherwise, why should you say something? Because then the people will get more distracted. Does that make sense? Right? Someone knows nothing about Krishna, but they're inimical to God, then all it is they have that, someone says God, they get upset. But if you tell them things about God, then they have more things to be upset about. So we avoid that. Yeah? Because you may say, oh no, but what about everybody? Yeah, but the point is they won't benefit anyway, so why offer? Does that make sense? Yeah. In this regard, Srila Jiva Goswami has mentioned that although the first-class devotee of the Lord may at times exhibit apparent hatred towards the demons because of entering the mood of the Lord's pastimes, the intermediate devotee should avoid such feelings. Right? Because they're taking on the rasa and mood that's there. And so it's not that they actually don't like the person, it's that attitude that's there. So they're taking on that mood as if it's the person, because that's what the Lord is doing. Because it's his pastimes, he's in control. But at the same time then he puts himself under yoga maya to see how the pastime will unfold. Does that make sense? So Uttamadhikaris may be absorbed in that mood, the Madhyamas won't. So they don't develop that apparent hatred. Right? They just are indifferent. Right? Furthermore, the intermediate devotee should not in any way associate with the powerful atheistic class of men, because there is a danger that his mind will become bewildered by such association. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, if a Vaishnava preacher encounters one who is envious of him, the preacher should remain far away from such an envious person. But the Vaishnava preacher may meditate upon ways to save the envious class of men. Right? Such meditation is called sadachar, or saintly behavior. Right? So they may think of ways in how you can catch. So then if they try and it works, then they continue. But if they don't, the envious remain like, then he'll stop that. Right? Srila Jiva Goswami has mentioned Prahlad Maharaj as an example of a saintly person. In Srimad Bhagavatam 7.9.43, there's the following statement by Prahlad. O best of the great personalities, I am not at all afraid of material existence. For wherever I stay, I am fully absorbed in thought of your glories and activities. My concern is only for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, and countries. I am simply concerned with love for them. Although a Vaishnava preacher constantly meditates on the welfare of all living entities, he will not associate with those who are unreceptive to the message of the Supreme Lord. In this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states that even Bharat Maharaj, Vyasadeva, and Sukadev do not exhibit their mercy indiscriminately. Right? You know, wherever they see there's an advantage that someone will be interested in Krishna consciousness, that's where they apply it. Does that make sense? Otherwise, then you don't, because it'll just disturb people. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has given an elaborate explanation to prove that the discrimination employed by a Madhyama Adhikari preacher does not at all show a lack of mercy. He states that upeksha, or neglect, as mentioned in this verse, is the proper medicine for those who are inimical to the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Indifference from the preacher checks feelings of hostility on both sides. Right? Because if he's indifferent, he doesn't become hostile. And those who are atheistic, they don't become hostile. Right? That doesn't mean that you don't, if you bump into someone, you don't say you're not pleasant. But the point is it's only how much is the proper etiquette. You know, the appropriate etiquette. More than that, you don't get involved. Although there is a Vedic injunction that one should cut out the tongue of a person who offends the Supreme Lord and his devotees, in this age it is best simply to avoid potential offenders and thus prevent them from committing further sinful activities against the Vaishnavas. It is the duty of a Vaishnava preacher to point out the futility of any process besides surrendering to the Lord. An envious person, however, will resent such strong preaching by a Vaishnava and disrespect him, considering the devotee to be unnecessarily criticizing others, meaning themselves, of course. Such a person who cannot appreciate the mercy of the Vaishnava should be neglected. Otherwise, according to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his cheating mentality will increase day by day. Right? So they're inimical, so you don't put yourself in a position to be around to make them more inimical. Yes? Do you have to, you have to be with them all the time? Sorry? No, that's there, but are you with them, do you live with them, or are you living somewhere else? Okay, so that means then you are moved away, so therefore then you perform your duties and devotional activities and whatever you're keeping yourself busy. Then whatever is the, accepted etiquettes, that time of being with the family, like whatever it is, the local things that you're supposed to be there for, then you go for that and be pleasant and nice. And don't, if they don't appreciate Krishna consciousness and that, then don't bring it up. Just be pleasant and nice and all that. Does that make sense? And if if they're good with that, that it's more cultured, then you leave it at that. If they have to bring it up, then tell them it's like this. They want to see you. Don't bring it up. You're being pleasant and nice. You're not talking to them about Krishna. Therefore, they should be pleasant and nice and not harass you about Krishna. Otherwise, then it's a big world out there. And Western white people die alone in, nursing homes. So if they're good with that, then hey, you don't mind. Does that make sense? You just put it in a perspective that they kind of go, oh. Right?
Well, how does it work if we're devotees and then the father dies, and do we have to do the rites for the father like in the Hindu tradition? How far do we go with the stuff when they're not interested, or when they be Christian?
It just depends. I mean, so you have various things. As if they're means you have the aspect of maybe they haven't been involved in anything Krishna conscious, but if they or the family or that are not inimical to it, then you could have them cremated and the ashes put in the Ganga, or Jamuna in Vrindavan or Mayapur. If that's not really on the table, then you can generally the 12th day after they die, as long as it's not an Ekadasi, or some other major festival. Otherwise, then you just do it the day after that. Then you would cook something, ideally feed the devotees, and after you've fed everybody and all that, then make a plate for them. And then that offering to them, then that's will free them from any inconveniences. But that plate you shouldn't eat. You just take it out and put it like in the forest or someplace like that. Does that make sense? You can keep it simple. But it's not about feeding a lot of devotees. That's an important thing when you're dealing in this, is that you're feeding, one is enough, but you're feeding how many you can take care of very nicely. Because some people think, if we feed everybody, then that will get the best benefit. No, it's you get the benefit for how many you feed nicely. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, and these, because it's technical, 1 to 3 people it recommends. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, you're having, some programs so you invite everybody or like that. You have to keep it to how many you can take care of nicely. If you can do more, then nice, but the main thing is that. So as devotees, then it won't be as strict, because it's not about, situating them in the heavenly planets and that. So if you're doing that, then it's very, very strict, exact. But as devotees, then it's more about Krishna consciousness and all those things. And then there's the prasad for them and all that. And then at the end, so the point is the benefit of having fed the Vaishnavas, that will go to, the Father. Does that make sense? Whoever's deceased. Because you're doing it on their behalf. So you're hosting. So it's how many you can host nicely. It's not volume. It's not, does that make sense? Like sometimes I've seen that, people want to feed, everybody in Mayapur and do that. But you don't do them nicely. It's not recommended. You invite them to the house. You do some nice little thing like that. That's the general thing. You can have some, if it's devotees, you can have some discussions about, if they're not a devotee, then about the philosophy and something connected, and about, that kind of philosophical points about, the temporariness of the world and all, whatever is appropriate for the mood and everything and who's there. That's a simple, like that, yeah. It just depends. Is your family doing pindas? Means as a regular thing. Do they do the pinda every month, every year? How are they?
They usually do that on funeral, on funeral rites, but that's like my family. They're not Hare Krishna devotees.
No, but are they doing it as a regular thing? Every year?
Not every year, no. Only on the day, 2 days or 3 days after the funeral.
And then they don't do it. Oh, but that one there, the pinda is supposed to be 12 days after, but that's the normal thing. But pinda is the offering to the forefathers. I mean, just the point is, just what you can do is just see that what they're offering is prasad. It's something offerable, and that is prasad. Or if they're offering all kinds of stuff, you make something and then put it in there along with it. But only that much there. We don't do more like that. You know, if the families are more, they're practicing all these things, then there is more stuff you can do like that. But otherwise, then it's not as important like that. Yeah. Yes, and then you offer that prasadam to the forefather. Yeah, like that. Overly humble. Yeah, can you be overly humble? Underrate. What do you mean by underrate? How would you underrate yourself? No, but I'm saying what's wrong with why, how is feeling yourself a fool underrating? Meaning you're saying you're not a fool, but you're saying you're a fool. But isn't that, how is that then too much humility? Because you're not actually humble because you think you're a great guy, but you're just presenting it that way. So, but correctly assess means you're a great guy. Then it's, you know, I mean, in other words, you don't want to say you're, you know, too fabulous. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, you have to respect Lord Brahma and Indra and those guys, but at the same time as, you know, it's definitely so much superior to everybody else because of, you know, you're just the intelligence and, you know, your power, influence, beauty, wealth, knowledge, renunciation is just, you know, really good. So you don't. So what are you going to be assessing? Yes, that I've caught that. We're trying to, but how are you, what is your judgment here? Because you're asking how to do it correctly, but you're already giving the measurement, but you're not defining your measurement.
Just sometimes being a devotee being humble, other people's trust, so everyone is in different ways. So depending on
No, but that's an external. He's talking about the internal contemplation. So you won't get that unless, you know, how you say, unless you're, you know, got a split personality. So if one side gets humble, the other one takes advantage. Yeah, then you have to be a little careful. Like that. And what Prabhu's talking about, that's external. No, you have to look like you know what you're doing. Right? But it doesn't mean that you're proud. It's just, that's the etiquette. Yes, but here it's giving these things. So then how much one has affection for the Lord? How much is one appreciating the devotees? How much is one compassionate towards those who are not devotees or junior devotees? How much are we, you know, not inclined towards associating with those who are inimical to Krishna? Right? How much are we absorbed? You know, how much knowledge is there about Krishna? How much detachment is there to the material world? You know, in other words, detachment meaning how everything's connected to Krishna, how we see it used in his service. Yeah? So, to do that, do you require too much or too little humility? You understand? That's what I'm saying. You're using the wrong measurement. You know, it's like saying, okay, we're going to, you know, check how hot the milk is, like that. So we bring a tape measure. You know, it's the wrong measurement thing. You know, so this, oh, am I too humble? Am I too, you're supposed to see, compare it to what's said is to compare it to. Does that make sense? Yeah. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has strongly rejected those foolish persons who, under a plea of mercy and equal vision, perceive that a faithless person is also a devotee of the Supreme Lord, and who thus try to thrust the Hari Nam or holy name upon such offensive people. Because there's the aspect of that, you see everybody connected to Krishna and stuff like that. So if they're trying to use that then to preach and they're not on that platform of actually an Uttamadhikari, then it's not going to work. And we see even Uttamadhikaris generally won't do that. So it's just, it's not something that we would do. So this whole, one has to see there is discrimination between who's qualified and not. Because this idea that, you know, nowadays people are saying about, you know, you have to be compassionate to everybody and see everybody equally and all that, but on what platform are they using that measurement? Is it from a Vedic point of equality, or is it from a modern social point of equality, modern, you know, social, political, economic point? So generally you see it's from the latter.
But even that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. That's why you see people complain about it.
It's all over the place.
It is. It is.
Star football player is equal to the baby, is equal to the dog. I mean, it's
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You just bring a bunch of dogs out on the field and, you know, they're going to catch the ball. And, you know, the fun part is they won't use their feet. So technically it's according to the rules. So you just bring a big enough dog that the ball fits in his mouth and, you know, he knows how to run down to the goal and then drop it over the line and then, hey, you know, you win because it's not against the rules, right? There's no rule that you can't grab the ball with your teeth and then run down the field. You know, it's just generally people aren't so good at that, but dogs are. So then, you know, we may have found, you know, someone's going to outdo, you know, Pele and all those guys.
So, I mean, there's sort of, you can't have, like, discussions where there's discrimination in culture.
That's why then you avoid it.
Yeah, you don't discuss it.
No, you don't, because the point is here, atheistic has various applications. One is, of course, the most obvious is those who don't believe in God at all. There's no God as a person. Then you have those that don't have a problem with God being there, you know, or even being a person, but they don't appreciate necessarily the laws, unless they're just something simple, you know, that ones that they can relate to. You know, don't kill other people, don't you know, swear, don't steal, don't take your neighbor's donkey, you know, those kind of things, you know, like that. Does that make sense? So then, because it's moralistic, they can kind of relate to it, but they're relating to it not because God has said. They're taking it that stealing is bad on its own. And then God's also said it, it just confirms that. But the point is because God says it's bad, that's why it's bad. Yeah, that's why it's bad, not because modern man has accepted that it's bad. You understand? There's a difference there. So when you get down to there, then they're not actually seeing the connection between Krishna and his creation. So then they deify the Lord. And so he, you know, he's spiritual and does all that and sits in heaven. But down here, he may have created it, but now he doesn't deal with it, and we have to deal with it. So we have to get it done. So in that way, it's non-theistic because their moral and ethical measurements are not in line with God's definition of the same. Even if it appears to be, it's not because it's to please God, it's that because it's the right thing to do, and as a society you have to do this. Right? And if you don't, then you're uncultured and savages and all those kinds of things. Which is fine. But the point is one's not a savage because one follows God's laws. Otherwise, if you're not following God's laws and you make up your own, even though they may be the same as God's laws, then you're a sophisticated savage. Like that. So that's the difficulty that comes up, is that people don't discriminate the difference between I'm following because Krishna said, and I'm following because that's, the social norm that I've grown up in and have accepted. Because there's a difference. So, yeah, does that make sense? Because we take it that that's the main thing. It's just like sometimes devotees will preach, instead of preaching about Krishna or about chanting, they'll preach about like vegetarian. Consider it's a good thing, it's set for, it's pious, it's nice, but it's not actually devotional service, because you can be a vegetarian and be a total nonsense. It probably gives the example that the pigeons are vegetarian. Right? And so how much, preaching's going on there. Right? Yeah. So that's the difficulty, is that we take it that that's important on its own. But the point is we're not technically vegetarians, we're Krishnatarians. Because then if we're vegetarians, then you can go out from there into, whatever, because we're vegetarian, then it's more of a kind of a philosophical kind of thing, or a lifestyle kind of thing. So then from that, it's a lifestyle, and so then the lifestyle, then, the modern, then they follow this lifestyle in connection with vegetarian, and so that's then what we're doing, and so then the vegetarian becomes mixed with the health food things, the natural food, and then what we define as a natural lifestyle. In other words, what's the healthy, natural way of living in the middle of the city? Right? No, it doesn't come up. So you can have the whole discussion, because it's not about that. So Prabhupada's pointing out we're Krishnatarians. So it's what Krishna eats is what we eat. So that means it's defined by what Krishna's eating. It's not that the vegetarian is the right thing, because in the animal kingdom, some are vegetarian, some are not. Or mixed, or it doesn't, and it's not wrong for them to do that. You know what I'm saying? If the cat catches the bird, it's not wrong. That's just what cats do. How you say? Does that make sense? So the cats are catching birds. They're following the law. They're catching birds, not aardvarks or something. It's just it doesn't work very well, right? Unless you're a really big cat, then it might work. But if you're a house cat, aardvarks are off the list, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. So the point is humans take the remnants of sacrifice. And so sacrifice then means offering things to the Lord, to the Supreme. So for us, that means Krishna. And so then offering it to Krishna, then it's Krishna as a person. So what does Krishna as a person like? That's what we offer, because we're interested in prema. Otherwise, it's just what's the rule? What does the Shastra say to offer? And that's as far as you have to take it. Because you're not interested in him as a person. You're interested in following the rules, because following the rules, then you get the results of the rules, and that's what you want. Well, for the devotee, the result is they want to please Krishna. So because they want to please Krishna, then that means he's a person. So then what does Krishna eat? So that we see, Bhaktivinoda Thakur in this song, Shukta Shakari Bhaji Nalita, like all these aspects. So these are the things that, given the acharyas then point out that humans, then what they eat is remnants of sacrifice. What they use in sacrifice is, grains, fruits, vegetables, dairy, and sugar. These are the 5 categories. Within each one you have varieties. So that's what's offered. And that's what we offer to Krishna, and then the remnants of that's what we take. Yeah. So then that's how it works. So that's why we eat that. So the point of being vegetarian is because you can offer it to Krishna. You could say, well, we'll bring him to goodness, but is that our business? You know? Like that. If you're preaching Krishna consciousness, they automatically come to goodness. Right? They go together. Does that make sense? But then when we take it, and then from there, then we get into the natural, we get into organic, we get into the health things, and then which health thing you're into. I mean, it's like, it's unlimited what you can get into. There's people, anything that's got fat in it, oh, you can't take that. But there are diets where they focus on fat, and you lose weight. Then, others, they focus on protein, others it's all on vitamins, others all on raw, others. So there's unlimited ways you can get distracted. But the point is what does Krishna like to eat? You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. What does he like to eat? How does he like it? So that's then what we focus on.
So there's just no real discussion. You can just say, well, Krishna doesn't like eggs.
Yeah.
He doesn't like mushrooms.
Yeah, so that's...
He diet, so it's not
Yeah, so that's why we're doing it. Does that make sense? He doesn't, so that's why we don't take those things.
So then you don't need to get into political discussion.
No, because it'll, like you said yesterday, it just starts a fight and everybody argues over it, right? Because then they see it's attacking their position, because that's what they want to do. So ultimately, it's about when someone follows some kind of a philosophy, in this case of eating or things like that, they're following one that they can appreciate. They're not necessarily following the one they should do. They follow whichever one they like, because there's so much variety of what you can do. And people constantly change and this and that.
But I mean, it's good to, when you talk about life, I like oranges or whatever, there's no discussion about it.
Right.
So when you say, well, Krishna likes these things, he doesn't like those things, there's just no discussion.
Yeah.
So you're not setting somebody off because they like red meat.
Right. Yeah, but you have to be careful if they are also atheistic. You don't want to bring up about Krishna, because then they'll go, why would he do that? So amongst but I was talking about it in the connection that I was talking about devotees, like that, because they tend to go, can get way off track when it comes to things that they go into their mouth and all that. So, but with the non-devotees, you can just say, I like it. You just say, I like it. Why are you vegetarian? I like it. I feel good. I feel better. It's just nice. I like that. Well, what about this and that? It says, well, so what about this and that? It's like, are you eating blood sausage? It's really supposed to be, according to what you're saying, really fabulous for you, And Limburger cheese. I mean, just think of all the probiotics that are in there. They've been in there for the last, 2 years, so they're really, really serious, So it's just, it's what you like. What it means amongst the range of things that are available that they don't have a problem eating. They only eat the ones they want to eat. Like, yeah. Once I don't remember if I saw it or I think I've seen it on the train riding from Mayapur to Calcutta. All the guys are going for work. One time, a guy was sitting there and he had a big onion, like a full size, like the size of a large apple onion. The outside, the papery thing has been taken, so it's down to the part that's edible. And he had that onion in one hand and a big chili, a green chili in the other. And he was eating the onion like you'd eat an apple. He'd take a bite of that and then take a bite of the chili. Yeah, I'm not sure if he was doing that to get more space to sit, but.
The Australian Prime Minister, he did it on the television. He
Just one bite. You ate the whole thing, but with the chili or no chili? Oh, okay, yeah, you got to wash it down. Yeah, because on the train, you wouldn't want to take a beer and fall over, I thought, yeah, so then you have it. Bengali factory workers, you know, and the prime minister here, then yeah, they'll eat an onion straight. So the point is so will that person eat? So then why you're complaining? You choose, so we choose. So I mean, why is it that everybody's got to eat what you eat? You know, and just think about it economically. If everybody ate what they ate, and that's all they ate, then it would be too expensive to eat what he eats because supply and demand. So everybody wants to eat that small amount of stuff. Then it'd be ridiculous, you know, like that. So then, you know, each onion would cost $100 or something, you know. So therefore, it's, you know, generally in these things you just take them off track with something logical but absurd. Because generally, if they give an example, it will always be an extreme example. You know, just like whatever you say about this, you know, meat eating or whatever it is, they'll come up with an example that's the most extreme that there is. But what happens if, you know, unless you eat meat, then you're going to die and this and that, and that's the only thing. How often does that happen? You know, where is it? What's this disease that unless you eat meat, you'll die? But they always have to come with the most extreme. So you just counter the whole point with most absurd. But it's logical. So they can see the logical connection, but the context is absurd, so then that's kind of throws the image that what they're doing is also absurd, so then leave you alone.
There's a tick on the eastern coast of Australia that spreads a virus that makes people allergic to meat.
Really?
And people have been eating meat their whole life, and suddenly they can't eat meat anymore and become vegetarians.
Wow. That's far out. That's amazing. Krishna's so far out, what he's got out there.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting blessing in disguise.
Yeah, that's far out. Yeah.
But I think these days people have so many diets, everyone is on something, that I think the meat is pretty normal.
Yeah, but I'm saying there's groups, but there's certain groups that are not. People are liberal in areas of their own choice. So then, some will be very liberal in one area, some are not. So when we talk about liberal, it's a catch-all of a wide range of points. And so, you know, it's rare that someone is, you know, on all the points is there, like that. So generally, they choose one area of that. And then that's where they're liberal, but in the other areas they're not, or, you know, so it's very rare that they're just across the board liberal and don't mind what anybody does. But there'll always be some, you know, restriction at some point where they freak out, you know. So that's the difficulty. There's no, you know, we'll say liberal, but there's no regular standard. Each liberal defines their liberality for themselves, and then their friends are those who agree with them. And that's why liberals are, as personal friends and community, extremely small. You know what I'm saying? The group amongst that liberal nature is a very broad group, but within that, who they're friends with and close with is very rare. I mean, very, you know, 1, 2, 3, you know, in the movies they'll show 3 or 4. You know, that's as far as it gets. They're not as a community, because each one has a different thing that they're liberal about, and the others don't agree with each other. So you have to find those who are liberal. Does that make sense? That's the kind of thing. But then, yeah, so they don't have a strong community because there's no common point of measuring the standards. You know, they set it and it changes day to day. You read something new in the newspaper or in a magazine or some article or hear something, and then you change, you include that into your philosophy, and then your friend says something, and oh no, but in, you know, in Africa, in the village, then they do this, you know, and like that, and it's kind of like, well, where did that come from? You know, this morning you were not doing that, and now you are, and now if you don't go along with it, that could jeopardize the friendship. Because it's just, you agree, then you're friends. You don't agree, you're not friends anymore. So it's not a matter of you need to work it out, you know. Does that make sense? So, but those groups who have a common standard, then you can have much more people involved. Does that make sense? You know, so there'll be a few things that everybody will agree on, but it's only enough to politically get together, but not enough to personally get together. Does that make sense? Yeah, like that. Okay. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has stated, when childish people think themselves Mahabhagavatas and act in defiance of the Vaishnava spiritual master, such behavior simply holds them back from receiving the mercy of the Vaishnava Guru. Bewildered by false ego, these self-proclaimed devotees gradually become fit to be ignored by pure devotees on the intermediate platform and are cheated of the mercy that comes from the devotee's satisfaction. Thus they become asadhu by constantly committing offenses against the devotees who preach the holy name of Krishna. Pure devotees, therefore, in all circumstances, display indifference to those who falsely imagine themselves to be Vishuddha Bhaktas, or pure devotees of the Lord. This indifference is an excellent manifestation of their mercy, right? Because it keeps them from getting worse, right? Because mercy means that they're supposed to be benefited. So in this case, they benefit by not getting worse, right? You may not be able to make them better, but at least you can help them not get worse. And how means if a karmi is complaining or harassing other karmis, then how quickly they degrade will be a little slow, right? But if they're harassing devotees or criticize devotees, then their degradation will be very fast. So it's actually, that's the mercy. Or those who claim to be very advanced and this and that, so you get the sahajias or anyone who's sentimentally looking at it without seeing the context of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah. And especially in the contemporary environment, just whatever it is socially and economically, or politically accepted amongst the karmis. And then if we're quoting that, then again, you just avoid that. Talk about something else. So if those devotees will engage properly in other activities, those are the activities you engage on. But in this area here, then if they're misapplying, then you avoid them in those situations. So. Yeah. Lord Krishna himself states in Bhagavad Gita 4.8, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion, I invent myself millennium after millennium. Right? So Krishna is discriminating. Right? Those who are pious, then you deliver them from the difficulties they're in from the impious. But the real point of delivering is they become Krishna conscious, right? And then those who are the miscreants who don't follow, then their situation gets destroyed, because otherwise they'll just, if it's up to them, they'll mess up everything. Srila Jiva Goswami has pointed out that even though the Mahabhagavat devotee may act on the second-class platform for preaching, his rejection of the envious living entities does not obstruct his vision of the Lord as all-pervading. Rather, when a first-class devotee or even a second-class devotee rejects the atheistic class of men, he's expressing the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? Because the Lord, then he is avoiding them or dealing with them. A first-class or second-class Vaishnava never actually becomes envious of another living entity, but out of intense love for the Supreme Lord, he becomes angry when the Lord is offended. Also, understanding the Lord's mission, he discriminates according to the position of a particular living entity. to consider such a Vaishnava preacher an ordinary envious person, or to consider him sectarian because of his proclamation of pure devotional service as the most exalted of all methods of spiritual advancement, reflects a materialistic vision called Vaishnava Jati Buddhi, or Gurushu Nara Matihi. Such an offense drags the offender down to a hellish condition of life by the laws of nature. Right? So, because you're discriminating on behalf of the Lord, because Krishna is the source of these discriminations. It's his energies, he's all of it. But it's a matter of what energy and what time you're dealing with and what way gives what particular taste. And then that matches with the particular rasa and relationships that the devotees have with the Lord. So then what cultivates rasa, that's what you follow, that which doesn't is against. And then giving up that, seeing things in relationship to the Lord, then that's going to be your main thing. What is not, then that's automatically going to be rejected because it's against relationships, right? Because you're taking it that I'm God, and so therefore you want to make everything, about you, and so then making everything about you, then the difficulty comes is everybody's doing that, right? So the natural thing is it's about Krishna, then there's that one common point. There's community with all living entities. So then those who, so discrimination is just what people do. They discriminate. If you can't tell the difference between an apple and a rock, then you have a problem,
But it's equal, though. It's all equal.
Yeah, so that's the whole point. If it's all equal, then why are they discriminating that you're discriminating? Because it's all equal anyway. So the discrimination and non-discrimination are equal, so everything's the same. So that's the thing where they pick and choose. It's not based on scriptures. So it doesn't actually work out very good. That's why in the Vedic system, even though there's so many different philosophies, there's one culture. There's one culture. And so everybody has that basis. Now, what they want to do as a philosophy, that's where they'll argue. But they're not going to argue over, if you're going to eat your chapati with the sabji and dal. That's not going to happen, right? No matter who they are, they're not going to take the chapati and put rice inside of it and roll it up and eat it, right? They're not going to do that. So in that way, So that's the difficulty it comes up is because these points of where we'll say is, they're discriminating, that'll be based on political views.
And random feelings.
Yes. Their own experience. When they were a kid, this happened, therefore anytime they get angry, when that is there, because before it was, you just, avoided it, but then, I'm not sure when it was. Was it in the 80s? 80s into the 90s, when this thing of rage, letting out your rage, and so the more you discuss it, the more it comes out, the more angry you get, the more you're freeing yourself. That's, mode of ignorance does everything backwards. So the more you do that, the more you become angry and offensive and all that. You don't free yourself. You've said it, okay, but then it's still there in the heart. It doesn't go away. You know what I'm saying? Just because I say, I don't like this person, now that I've said it, now it doesn't mean now I like him. We don't want to be restricted. We want to be able to do and say whatever we want. But then the problem is if everybody does that, then how nice is that? Yeah, so it's not well thought. It's not a well thought out system. Yeah. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, although a Mahabhagavat sees every living entity as a pure spirit soul, such a Mahabhagavat still experiences special ecstasies and other symptoms upon meeting another Vaishnava. Right, so it'll deal with all that they're all, the part and parcel of the Lord. They're all ultimately servants of the Lord. But depending upon what is their service to the Lord in the way of where they're seeing the Lord. You understand? In other words, the materialist is not seeing God as a person and serving him in that way, right? They're seeing God in the form of money or, position or power or beauty, whatever it is. So they're dealing with the Lord not based on devotion and all that, though they're all devotees, won't have as much taste as the special ecstasies and that come by meeting another devotee who it's about Krishna. And then the more advanced the devotee, then the more nice it is. Right? But all living entities they can get along with because they see everything in connection with Krishna. But there still is a difference.
Discrimination even in that.
There has to be, why wouldn't there be?
Otherwise, again, you're back to that all equal.
Yeah, because the all equal is actually an impersonal thing. And it's not even a real impersonal thing, because the real impersonal is generic. And so there is a difference between the generic position of, how you interact with a friend, and the generic how you interact with a tree. Right? So the impersonal means it's general. Does that make sense? We say, cats catch mice. That's generic. So it's an impersonal. It's a statement based on the impersonal position of how Brahman, being the source of everything, therefore the nature of a cat is coming from Brahman, therefore all cats do that. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, but the point is that the individual cat then is an individual. But they still function within that aspect of impersonal. So the two go together. The personal and the impersonal go together.
So then the devotee can see the atheist and they can see the Vaishnava as equal, but they're getting more joy out of the Vaishnava because they're not devotee.
Yeah, they're seeing them all as part and parcel of the Lord. But they can tell the difference in what kind of devotion they have, what level of devotion. But they see them all as souls and servants of the Lord. But what level of service they're rendering to the Lord, that's the difference in the view.
And that's the joy.
Yes, of course.
And the relationship.
Yes. Yeah. Then, this is not contrary to his vision as a topmost devotee. Rather, it is a symptom of his love for Krishna. Pure devotee sees every living entity as part and parcel of Krishna, and therefore expresses his love for Krishna through love for all the expansions and creations of Krishna. Right? So he'll deal with them properly because they're part and parcel of Krishna. So the etiquettes and all that will be following. But the taste and interaction, though, may be, less or more. Still, such a Mahabhagavat feels special ecstatic love upon seeing another living entity directly pleasing the senses of the Supreme Lord. Such feelings are manifest in the statement of Lord Shiva to the Prajetas. Quote, if one by chance associates with a devotee, even for a fraction of a moment, he no longer is subject to attraction by the results of karma or jnana. What interest then can he have in the benedictions of the demigods who are subject to the laws of birth and death? Bhagavatam 4:24-57. Right? So there's a difference. You associate with the materialist, then one gets attached to that materialistic approach of their interacting with the Lord. While if you associate with those who are situated as these great devotees, then just even a moment's association can adjust your life. Right? Similarly, Lord Shiva also stated, you are all devotees of the Lord, and as such I appreciate that you are as respectable as the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. I know that in this way the devotees also respect me, and I am dear to them. Thus, no one can be as dear to the devotees as I am. Bhagavatam 4:24-30. So in here, this is not putting the ego up or down. This is that he is the, non-different from the Lord in that he's a transformation. Does that make sense? So therefore, if he says, no one can be dear to the devotees as I am, he's not being puffed up. It's just, that's the position. You know what I'm saying? So it's not a matter of more ego or less ego. It's just, like you said, it's the facts. So then in facts, how does more ego or less ego come into it? Those will cloud the facts, so therefore then... Does that make sense? Yeah. Srila Sukadeva Goswami is mentioned as Nityam Vishnu Jana Priya, especially due to the pure devotees of the Lord. Srila Jiva Goswami mentions that Uddhava and other pure devotees of the Lord were always prepared to offer respectful obeisances, even to such persons as Duryodhana. Madhyamadikaris, however, should not imitate such Uttamadikari behavior. Right? That's what he's talking before. If you're not on that platform, you don't deal like that. Because you're not seeing everybody from that platform. You're just saying, like that. In this connection, the distinction between the Madhyamadikari and Uttamadikari is stated by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur as follows. A Madhyamadikari cannot at any time perceive the presence of the Supreme Lord within all living beings, whereas an Uttamadikari, however, he acts on the second-class platform to carry out the Lord's mission, is aware that every living entity is ultimately a forgetful, Krishna-conscious living entity. Right? The Madhyama can't see like that. He may see it at the specific where he applies it. But the Uttamadikari can see that, that's just the way he sees. Does that make sense? So that's why if you're not seeing that all the time, then don't say that you're on that platform. Right? In other words, they're giving us the symptoms by which you can check. Yes?
What's the concept of Dhammadikari becoming Madhyamadikari in order to preach Prabhupada's claim? In the case of Uddhava bowing down to Duryodhana?
Yeah, that's what he mentioned. Or being respectful.
So, if people are watching and, someone, is it sort of a deposition of giving example to others, sort of a conscious choice? Or is it,
No, it's a matter of...
because like if someone will try to, he's bowing down to the demon, the other way.
But the point is but what is the position of that demon in the political field? And of kings, what kind of king? Yeah, but I'm saying, is he just a king or is he the emperor? Yeah, the emperor. So then being the emperor and they being Yadus, who are from the Moon Dynasty is always under the Sun Dynasty, Duryodhana's Sun Dynasty, therefore they as Yadavas would be respectful to the emperor. Right? Now, if you want to go out to the forest and just move in the forest and all that, then you may not have to, then you'll just consider him as a living entity like others. And if he's acting as a king, you can deal with him that way, but it's not important.
So is he bowing down to Duryodhana assuming the Madhyamadikari role, or does he bowing down as a Uttama that he sees Lord in every living entity?
He'll see that, but he also sees that the etiquette for what is the position that they're playing, because he'll be playing a role and connect. So he's the advisor to Krishna. So that means then he will do, messages and going and analyzing situations and all that. So he has to act within the system of etiquette, like that. So then he's doing it from there. And for him it's not a problem because he sees everybody also connected to Krishna. So, but in this case, they may be looking at it from the point, because he's involved in the pastime, that Duryodhana is an enemy. And so, but without following etiquette, then you can't work with him and analyze what's the actual situation. Right? And so then he will deal in that way. That's what it said before, is that even such a great Vaishnava, Sukadeva Goswami, one of the 12 Mahajans in this universe, expressed his contempt for the evil Kamsa. Because he's just disturbing devotees and just creating problems like that. So they can get into that mood within the pastime. The Madhyama just sees and then avoids. The Uttama, that they can see in that one way, or but if they're working within the pastimes, then they're going to see from how his position in the pastimes. So Krishna's dealing as he's an enemy, so then he's also dealing. But that's for the Uttamas. That's why it says they may have that, how you say, contempt for these persons, or they may be able to work and deal with them and see them in a different light of Krishna. But that's them. Whichever one it is there, what's the mood, what's the situation, that's what we don't define. So you have to know the position. But if we just make everybody equal, then yeah, we're going to. Then that's where the criticism comes up. So the point is they're not equal. They're in a different thing. So why are you comparing them? Is that yeah. Okay. Yes. From the Bhagavatam class. From Big Brother up there. It's from the position of that everything, he is everything, everything's in him. Does that make sense? So that's then how you get the dark color. If you take all the colors and put them all together, what color do you get? Because I think earlier we were discussing something connected with color. It was one of the one of the examples we were working in. Okay? Yeah, so no, you haven't missed out on something that... Therefore, although a devotee may externally engage 4 different kinds of behavior, as mentioned in this verse, namely worship of the Lord, friendship with the devotees, preaching to the innocent, and rejection of the demons, he is not necessarily on the second-class platform, since an Uttadhikari also may exhibit these symptoms to carry out the Lord's mission. Right? So he's carrying out the mission, so that's the 4 things that you do, but it's not that they don't have that a higher understanding and realization. That's why when they do the Madhyamadhikari stuff, generally it goes better for them because their realization is above a Madhyam, though they're doing the service of a Madhyam. Right? Because the service of the Madhyam, then they'll discriminate where you can preach nicely. Right? While the Uttama, they may not be making that distinction. Either they're not making a distinction because they're seeing a connection with the Lord's pastimes, or because they see all living entities as part and parcel of the Lord and see the super soul everywhere. So everybody's already following Krishna's direction. Just whether it's they're doing it in a favorable service or a direct service to Krishna, or whether it's indirect, or whether it's unfavorable. But the point is they're always interacting with Krishna. So that's also not going to work for the preaching. So to preach, then they take the mood of the Madhyama, because that's a steady, stable position to preach from. Because the other one, for tasting, seeing and tasting things in relation to Krishna, then that's the natural position. But to preach, then you have to be able to discriminate in these 4. Right? So if you say you're not discriminating, then that means you're not a Madhyama. So that means it's either you don't know what you're talking about, and you're a neophyte, or you're seeing everything all connected to Krishna at all times, all places, all circumstances, and seeing the super soul in everyone, and everywhere, then, and that's why you see everything equally. You understand? But the one wouldn't be political, and the other it might be. So that's generally the further symptoms you can look for. In this regard, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions that it is the duty of the Madhyamadikari to extend himself as the right hand of the Uttamadikari, vowing to work for the benefit of others and offering to help in distributing love of Krishna. Right, so that's the point, is the Madhyama will always try to help the Uttama. Because the Uttama has the vision, and the Madhyama can go out and apply it by discriminating who can get that vision. Right? Finally, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has given a nice explanation of the difference between Archan and Bhajan. Archan refers to the platform of sadhana bhakti, in which one serves the Lord to carry out the rules and regulations of the process. One who has achieved the shelter of the Lord's holy name and is totally engaged in the attempt to serve the Lord should be considered to be on the platform of Bhajan, even though his external activities may sometimes be less strict than those of the neophyte engaged in Archan. This apparent lack of strictness, however, refers to laxity not in the basic principles of sane behavior and renunciation of sense gratification, but rather in the details of Vaishnava ceremonies. Right, so Archan means you're following the rules. Bhajan means you're absorbed in the shelter of the Lord's holy name. So then, because you're always chanting, then there may be things that you may not be doing because you're always absorbed in chanting. But for someone engaged in Archan or in sadhana, then it's a matter of, if they're not following the rule, they won't be doing service. Does that make sense? Well, the other person is absorbed in service, so that's why they may or may not be always doing all the fine points. Right? Okay, so we'll stop here. Shai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki, Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi.